Okay, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar, Looking to Chartio a New Path, Get Next Level Visualizations plus Ad Hoc Analytics with Sigma. So before we dive in, just a few housekeeping items that I want to get out of the way. We are recording this webinar. We will be running a couple of polls over the course of the slides. We'll answer any questions that you have at the end. So if at any point you do have a question, feel free to enter it into the questions box in the GoToWebinar panel on the right side of your screen, and we'll collect those and answer as many of them as we can during that Q&A portion at the end of the webinar. There's also a handout for you to download in the same panel there underneath the questions box. And then finally, we will follow up with you via email and send out the recording to you after the session. Just a quick peek at today's agenda. After I introduce our fabulous speaker, he's going to go over, what is Sigma? How does it stack up against Chartio? Then we're going to take a look at a success story from a Sigma customer. We'll dive into Sigma so you can actually see Sigma in action. We'll quickly cover how to get started migrating from Chartio to Sigma, and then we will end with that live Q&A that I mentioned. So with that, let me go ahead and pass it off to the man of the hour, Kristian.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kristian Fennessy, and I am a solution engineer here at Sigma, where I've been helping my customers find better BI solutions over the past year. And prior to this, I was the director of solution engineering at Chartio for the past 2 years prior. So I'm happy to share today why I love Sigma so much and why I think you'll love it too. So what is Sigma? And Sigma is fairly similar to Chartio in the sense that we are a browser-based analytics and BI solution for your cloud data warehouses. And on the surface, Sigma and Chartio may even look similar. We do some of the same things. So for example, we can both build charts and create dashboards. And with Chartio, that's the main value proposition. You can take your data, you can generate a slice of it, and then you can plot that and then show that to some end users. And Sigma does that as well. We have very beautiful dashboards, as you'll see here. We have very robust filtering controls. And again, our visualizations, our geomapping, all are very mature. But that's really not all that Sigma does. Sigma is much more. We can also conduct ad hoc data analysis using a spreadsheet-like interface on the lowest level of detail with your data, so down to the individual rows. And we do this again using a very familiar spreadsheet-like interface. Similarly to an Excel or Google Sheets, you can add simple formulas to create new columns, metrics, and then of course do all the visualization and dashboarding that you've come to like today with Chartio. Sigma is also different in a number of key ways. So first, we are purpose-built for the cloud. We're a SaaS solution with a direct connection to your cloud data platform or warehouse. There's no data extracts, so we're not moving, storing, caching, or persisting any of your data in our service. And it's secure. All of our data is encrypted both in transit and at rest on its way to the end user. And we have flexible governance, data modeling, and other controls that we'll walk through during the call today. The second differentiator would be our spreadsheet UI. So we're very familiar, again, to those Excel jockeys, business users, and we don't have any overhead in terms of technical skills or SQL code to learn. You can use our interface if you're familiar with, again, spreadsheets, which about 1 billion folks on this earth are today. So we have a lot of knowledge that's inherent in our workforce that we can now leverage using Sigma. And then we're uniquely scalable. So with Chartio, you may have run into the row limits, 1 million for the standard chart editor. Sigma is uniquely scalable in the sense that we can work on billions or more rows, and we can work with the lowest level of detail. So you can bring in any amount of data you have from your cloud data warehouse, and we'll be fast and performant on it. You'll see through the demo today, when we do a live demo, the performance and the speed is unparalleled.
Great.
Okay.
So that brings us to our first poll. What % of your company's data lives in your cloud data warehouse? So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. Take a second to respond. What % of your company's data lives in your cloud data warehouse? Give everyone another second here. Go ahead and answer. All right, let's close this up and share the results. So, all right, looks like the majority of folks say that they have about most of their data in their cloud data warehouse, which is awesome. And there are a few who have a little bit less, but that's okay. There's definitely time to move it in there. All right, so with that, let's pass that back over to you, Kristian, so you can continue.
Sure. So the main question we're looking to answer today is, why would you choose Sigma if you're a current Chartio user? And there's really a few key points that make Sigma the ideal solution for migration from Chartio. The first is our access and governance controls. So with Chartio, I guess we put familiar user interface first. So again, just to cover this spreadsheet-like interface, we use very simple Excel-like formulas and functions. We're able to freely explore raw data down at the lowest level of detail, the lowest level of grain. And we can do data modeling without SQL or proprietary coding. So not only can we do analysis and visualization, but we also have that metadata layer, which is something that Chartio, certainly I love the Chartio product. I wish we'd had that at the time. We can easily join together multiple data sources into a single view to create a single source of truth. And we can even work with JSON data in a code-free way. And we'll show this during the demo. But again, this is the main point here with why we would want to move over to Chartio from Chartio to Sigma. The second, we touched a bit on this, but the scalability. So think about 1 million rows versus 100 billion rows. And the amount of data in a data warehouses is exponentially increasing as time goes on. We're at a point in human history where we're generating more data daily than we used to have overall. So at this point, we need to have solutions that are uniquely scalable to the vast size of data that enterprise organizations are now accustomed to. And no data summaries, no extracts, no subsets of data required. And you'll see how we can accomplish this during the demo. And then the last point, security and governance. So we do have very strong application and platform security. We have all of the highest security certifications and attestations, SOC, GDPR, HIPAA, CCPA, and so on. You can see on our website all of our certifications and attestations. The queries are running directly against your cloud data platform, which is what ensures our secure architecture. We're going to serve those end users directly in their web browser without persisting any data in our service, which means that your users are now getting access to your data in the most direct way possible. Before we jump into the demo, we also want to share one quick success story, which comes from our customer, Migo. And Alex Harvey is a marketing lead at Migo, which is an embedded lending platform that enables companies to extend credit to consumers and small businesses in their own apps. And Alex really likes Sigma because 1, he can work within a spreadsheet interface. 2, all of that data is live against the cloud data platform. And 3, he's actually able to self-serve, joining his own data sets together, doing data modeling, and then doing his own analysis and visualization. He doesn't need to go back to his BI team to do this. And some of the highlights as far as their return on investment, Alex and his team have been able to increase recovery campaign response by over 50%. They've been able to improve marketing campaign ROI by 11%, and they've accelerated the time from initial marketing analysis from 1 week to 1 hour, which is a huge multiplier on Alex and his team. And again, these are all knowledge workers. They're marketing folks. They're not data or BI folks. They have all the inherent knowledge within them. They just needed the solution that would enable them to run this type of analysis and push their business forward. So just a quick, again, case study from Migo, Alex Harvey, our marketing lead there. And with that, I'll take the screen over at this point and I'll do a demo of the Sigma platform. We'll run through essentially what might be a sample migration from Chartio. We'll connect to some data. We will model that data set, and then we'll switch over to the end user perspective. We'll run some analysis and visualization, and we'll put that on a dashboard. So at this point, I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm going to start with just a few slides to orient us before we get into the platform itself. So we're going to assume, and most of you on the phone today do have almost 75 to 100% of your data within the cloud data warehouse. That's the ideal setup for us because we're really just going to connect to that data warehouse. We do not want to do any extract, transform, or load operations. That should be better done upstream. And then we'll be the analytics and BI layer sitting on top of the warehouse. Your company will access it through the web browser. And with every user action in the browser spreadsheet-like interface, we're going to auto-generate SQL. So this is similar to Chartio. However, one thing I do want to note is that it's every single action. So you may know that with Chartio, pipeline actions, steps that you take to create these visualizations, you don't actually get to see the SQL generated from those. With Sigma, every chart, every action, every new column, every new metric, those are all SQL queries. And this helps with security and governance as well. So you can take administrative reports that we run in our own service, and you can run analytics on your queries as well. And we'll talk about that a bit. A bit about our architecture here. So we're going to, again, be that layer connected directly to the cloud data warehouse with a live connection. And we're going to enforce several layers of security so that we ensure your data is safe and connected. We have role-based access control. We have SSO and OAuth support for connection to data warehouses. And all of our data, metadata, it's all encrypted in transit and at rest with minimum TLS 1.2. So you can ensure that you're securely accessing your data at all steps along the way. We'll cover some key administrative capabilities. We'll start here, right? We'll start with data modeling just to get that piece out of the way. We'll talk about some of our usage dashboards, and we have a concept of data endorsement, which allows you to easily share and collaborate on documents and version control. And then, of course, we'll also cover some of our security aspects, both platform security as well as product security. So again, fine-grained role-based access control, SSO, encryption, highest level of security standards. With that, I'll stop boring you with slides. I'll move into the actual demo portion. So on my screen now, this is a Sigma organization. And during this demo, we're going to start with, again, the administrative side of things. And we're going to be looking primarily at a retail data set. So if you're not a retail customer, no worries. We can definitely accommodate whatever your data is in, but this demo will be done in retail. So to start, I'm going to click on my Snowflake connection. This is our connection browser. We'll come back here, but I want to quickly show us the connection details and where we can manage them, which is in the administration section. And here, we're going to connect typically to your instance. In this case, it's Snowflake. We do support Snowflake, BigQuery, Redshift, and Postgres at this time. And we'll assume all your data is in there. We'll connect here with a boilerplate user and role, but we can also connect with external OAuth. So we can have users access data in the cloud data warehouse from Sigma as if they were logged in as their own user for the cloud data warehouse. And you might also notice here, connection features, write access. Sigma is much more than just a read-only analytics solution. That's what we are by default, but once you enable write access, you can enable so much more. You can enable the ability to materialize tables from Sigma into your data warehouse. I'll show you how we can do that when we get to data sets. And you can also edit data in tables in your data warehouse directly from the Sigma interface. And we'll cover that too. So let's head back to the connection browser. But before we do, I also want to cover teams very quickly. Teams are just groups of users. If I create a team, I'll do this here. I'll call this Kristian's team. I can add any number of users to this team. And then those users will have access to a dedicated workspace within Sigma where they can securely share and collaborate on documents. And that's the first piece of our role-based access control. The second piece being our individual user permissions. So here, you might see that I'm an account type admin. We also have a second and third account type of author, which allows you to explore data that's been curated by admins. And then the viewer, who can only view objects. They don't have the ability to really do any analysis themselves. That's the crux of our role-based access. And this will make a little bit more sense in context. As I go back to the connection, I can browse and manage my permissions for my connection. And I can apply permissions at really any level, whether it's the whole connection, the database, the schema, or the table. And we do have row and column level security. So you can control access at every point along the way. Jumping into the actual connection on the left-hand side, I'm going to go down to a table. And here, I've got a retail demo schema, and I'm going to model a data set for my retail sales analyst. We do support whatever kind of schema you have, whether you're unmodeled, star schema, snowflake schema, third normal form. We can support any manner of schema, and you'll see why. So here, I'm going to start with a fact table, and I'm going to create a data set. And I'm going to put this into my workspace. So I'll create a folder here, subfolder within my workspace. Again, only members of my team can access this workspace. And so right now, all we have is 4.5 million rows and 5 columns coming directly from our cloud data warehouse. But I can easily edit this data set to add any number of tables. I'm going to bring 4 tables together here. I'm going to start with another fact table that I need. I have some point of sale information, but then I also want the individual order number, line item information. And so I can bring that in very easily. All we need to join in Sigma is a join key. And here it's order number. I can select my join type, and I can select any number of join keys. If Sigma didn't select the right one for me, I could select it myself, and I can even do formulaic joins. Now when I click done, this is going to bring in that data right on top. So now you'll see we're working with 4.5 million rows, 11 columns. But let's do this. Let's add 2 more tables. I'm going to bring in some, again, dimension tables at this point. Here's a customer dimension table. It'll join in on customer key. And let's bring in one more. Let's bring in a product table. And we'll join on customer key. Sorry, here, product key will join for the product table. And so just in a couple minutes there, you can see that I now have 4.5 million rows of data across 43 columns in my nice wide data set. But let's just say I also have one more CSV file. I don't have it anywhere in my data warehouse. I have it locally on my machine. I can bring that into. You might also notice we can bring in SQL queries. We do have full SQL support. So you can write whatever queries you want. If you have an existing Sigma data store today, you can copy the SQL from that and just put that in our SQL runner. And then that'll work right out of the box. But here I'm going to bring in a spreadsheet. And this has a list of my customers and a true false column, whether or not they're in our loyalty program. We'll use that for analysis too. And we'll bring this in. This will upload to our data warehouse, which means this does use our write access that we discussed earlier. So just another capability. And here, I'll select my customer key and I'll bring that right on top. I could also apply filters to this data, and our filters are very easy. So for example, maybe I want to come into this column, this customer key, and add a filter to include or exclude specific customers. I could do that here, and then this filter would persist down to any analysis I do off of this data set. So just to highlight that there. Before we're done with this, I'm going to rename this. We'll call this a retail sales data set. This will be the single source of truth for retail sales. And I'm going to, well, one, I'm going to publish so that Sigma doesn't tell me I have unsaved changes. But then two, I'm going to give this a badge, an endorsed badge. And you'll see how this appears in the UI in a bit, but we'll call this endorsed by Kristian today. So now anyone who uses this, my retail sales analysts, they can come in here and they'll see that, great, this has been endorsed, this object is ready to go. And that's essentially the admin experience. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing my screen, and we're going to switch over now. We're going to go to the business user experience. So how does the user access this document? How do they use it? How do they run analysis on this? That's the next persona that we're going to tackle here. So I'm going to reshare my screen. You'll see I'm back here on the home page. And I see this retail data set as a document here. It's been endorsed, right? With my note here, you can see endorsed by me today. I could also go into my workspace and access this. So I'm a member of Kristian's team. I can go in there, and in the webinar subfolder, I can find the retail data set. And from the retail data set, I can create a worksheet. We'll rename this the retail worksheet. We'll keep this in our documents for now. This is our sandbox where we can work with any of our documents. And so now I can see my 4.5 million rows and 45 columns worth of data. So let's start with visualization. How do we quickly get from this extremely wide table to a visualization? You might note with Chartio, when you're making a chart with the chart creator, you need one chart creator for every chart. With Sigma, we can have any number of visualizations running off of this worksheet. So that's one piece that's going to make your life a lot easier. I have all this information in context here, and I can work with it on as many different visualizations as I want. But let's do this. How do I start here? Let's take these sales amounts and cost amounts, and let's just quickly format these as currency. We can also add some new columns here, and I'm going to add one for my analysis. This will be a gross profit column. So all I'll do in the formula bar is I'll say sales amount minus cost amount. You'll see Sigma picks up on what I'm typing and gives me some suggestions. And I can call this gross profit. Now with every user action, what you'll notice is we're going to be running a query. And so if I take this evaluate query, for example, you'll see that executed in a few seconds, and you can see all the SQL that I wrote here. And I didn't write this, right? Sigma wrote this for me, 273 lines of SQL. Again, business users don't necessarily need to know SQL. Is it helpful? Sure, but all they need to know is basic formulas. So here, let's just do another one. Sales amount divided by sales quantity to give me the unit price. And you'll see how quickly that executes. It's also worth noting that in addition to querying the data warehouse directly, Sigma is now starting to use what we call browser-based evaluation. And browser-based evaluation allows us to conduct some calculations using the compute of the web browser rather than the data warehouse. For simple calculations, things like divisions, additions, multiplications. And this is very good from a performance perspective because it allows us to bring that data to the end user instantly. So I've got my columns here now. I made a few. Let's add a visualization. 4.5 million rows. I want to answer some questions. I'm a retail sales analyst. I want to know our sales over time. On the axis, I'll bring in time. I'll just bring in a date, and I can bring in any manner of date. I'm going to bring this in on a monthly basis, but I could also add optional drill downs to week, to day, and so on. We'll show you how those manifest in the chart here. And in the value, let's just start with something simple, right? I made this gross profit column. Let's just use this one. We'll do a sum of gross profit over time. In this case, it's month. If I double click on month, that'll bring me into the weeks in that month. And if I double click on the week, that'll bring me into the days. But let's make this chart a bit more complicated. I have gross profit by month. That's great. But let's break this out by color. I want to see a different color for each region. So I'll come into here and I'll bring in customer region. And this may look better as a different kind of chart. We could try a grouped vertical bar. I'm not sure that looks the best. Maybe we'll settle here on a line. And again, I can double click on any month to get the weeks and any week to get the days. Now let's say I want to do a cohort analysis. I like this chart, right? I like sum of gross profit by month, by region as well. But I want to be able to split this out into our different customer cohorts. So maybe I need some customer information. I have a lot of customer information here. I can scroll through and I can look at some of these fields, see if I find anything that I want. And I'm finding this JSON field. Sigma can natively extract JSON with a point and click manner. So here, I can bring in any number of fields from this JSON object. I'll bring in age group and civil status. I can bring those two customer dimensions in. Once I hit confirm, you'll see we'll bring those fields in, and those are first-class fields. We can use these in our analysis. So for example, I may want to create a unique cohort for each combination of age group and civil status. I'm going to drag age group into my trellis row and civil status into my trellis column. And I'll expand this visualization just to show you what happens. But now we have sum of gross profit over time by region, and it's going to break this out into every unique combination of age group and civil status. And this is a pretty heavy query. So you'll see here, right, that ran for a little bit. That one took around 20 seconds, but this is a hefty analysis. 4.5 million rows. We're using an extra small Snowflake data warehouse, and we're now breaking out this multi-dimensional sum of gross profit by month, region, and customer cohort of age group and civil status. And so at this point, I might be satisfied with this, right? How do I share this? I can easily share this with any number of folks just through the link. I can put this in a workspace. I can share it directly through our UI. But what I can also do is put this on a dashboard. That's where a lot of folks will be consuming our content. So I'll publish this. And in the top right, I'll click Add to Dashboard. And so I'll bring this onto my dashboard. And we have a very similar dashboarding system to Chartio. We do have a tile-based dashboard in there in the background. It's 12 tiles wide and as many tiles long. I can rename this, right? We can call this a retail sales dashboard. We can add an image. We can embed things in here. Let's also add some filters for our end users. So here, I'll filter on date. And I can give us an advanced date range. We can also do a simple date range, which is just a picker, but I'll show you all the advanced one. And then let's add a few dimensions too. Let's add customer region. So I say I want to filter on that. Let's add civil status. I want to filter on that. And this all works right out of the box. And the reason why is, as I drag these around, we're pulling the filter values directly from the values in the column itself. We scan the column, we say here are the values, and display them. And since we're filtering using those column values, it all just works. So for example, we'll start with date. I might want to give us, let's just look at the year 2019. For customer region, let's just compare two regions, West versus Midwest. And then for civil status, right, maybe we just want to look at our single versus married customers. So what we've built there in just the past or so minutes is a very robust cohort analysis with several filters. It's on a dashboard, and this can now be shared with folks in any manner of ways. We can share via link. We can schedule this out. So we can distribute this via email or Slack to any number of recipients, PDF or inline format. This can be daily, weekly, or monthly, or a custom cadence, or even better, we can do if condition is met. So for example, I may want to look to see if any value of gross profit, the sum of gross profit, exceeds, meets, or goes below a certain amount. I can test for these conditions, and we can have these emails send out at a particular threshold. And then we do also have control based, so we can add filters to this dashboard from within our scheduler. So it's a very robust schedule there. And then we also do have very robust embedding options. We have three manners of embedding: public, which you can allow to show essentially anybody; private, which is meant for an internal embedded use case in a third-party application; or our application embedding, which allows you to take a dashboard and show it to as many external users as you want, and to filter the dashboard based on an attribute about that user, an ID, a team, an email, whatever you want. So we have very robust distribution options. I'm almost done with the demo here. Last thing I want to note is, again, this ad hoc data analysis piece. So we did just create a nice visualization. We did that quickly, and we answered some simple, going to more complex questions. What about something that you can't really visualize as well? Something that you might do in a spreadsheet, in Excel. You might download some files together today in Excel, munge them together. You might try to do this in Chartio too. We can go from the dashboard to view this underlying worksheet at any time. And this is a function that's available to any user. So a viewer can actually come into here and get the context of the 4.5 million rows of data we've worked with. But let's just say I want to now take this information and I want to slice and dice it. I want to pivot. I want to aggregate it. I want to work with it in a way that's a bit more flexible. This is where the concept of sigmas, levels, and groups comes in. So let's just start with month. That's an easy grouping. We did the visualization with a month. I'll just take this date column, I'll duplicate it, I'll bring it down to a month, I'll rename it, and then we'll group on it. So what this is going to do, for those of you familiar with SQL, it's essentially a group by. So now I can take this group, this month, and I can sort my entire data set on this level of grain. And then I can do aggregations on this level of grain. We did some sales information here previously. Let's do something that's a little bit more complex. Let's do some customer metrics. Let's take our customers and let's see how many we have, what the ratios are across different regions. Let's do some advanced analysis here. So to start with month, I'm going to do a count if on our loyalty program field. So this will count all of the true rows, which will give us our store members by month. And I can collapse these base columns. They'll still be there, but just to show you now at our level 1 grain, which is month, I can look at those store members over time and say, okay, that's great, but what if I want to break this out now by region? And we did region previously, so maybe let's do something different. Let's do customer state. We'll group on that. This is very flexible. We can do this with any number of columns. I'm going to add a new column here. We're going to do that same formula, count if on that loyalty program field that we brought in from our CSV file. And this will be our state store members. Of course, I can take these and I can sort them descending so we can see the states with the most members up at the top. We could add a new column to get the percent of members. So this will be state store members divided by store members, formatted as a percent. And we'll call this percent of store members. Right, 23% in California. It's a pretty big state, so that tracks. And then again, we can start breaking this down in many different ways. So I'll do one more level for us. Let's go with there should be a store key somewhere in here. See if we can find that. And you know what? I might actually not have it. So let's bring in city, right? We have that. So I'll group it. And so here, we might just do some different calculations. We might say, show me the median of the sales amount. This is the city median sales for each of our store members. We might come on the state level, and we might say the same thing, median of sales amount. This will be the state median. And then now we can see for each city, what's our plus or minus on that median. So we'll say city median sales minus state median. And this will be our over under state median. And then of course, we can plot any of these, right? We can go into a visualization. These are all first class columns. We can perform any number of visualizations here. So just a quick few minutes on the ad hoc data analysis piece. And from there, that's it for the demo. So thanks for watching that piece, and definitely if you have questions about the demo, put those in the chat. We'll definitely answer those.
All right, thank you so much, Kristian. That was great. So let's go ahead and jump into our second and final poll. Now that you have seen Sigma in action, which of the following Sigma capabilities that we discussed did you find the most exciting? So let me launch this. Take a minute to answer. Did you enjoy the charts and visualizations? Maybe you loved the spreadsheet UI, data modeling and curation, or the ability to scale to billions of rows of data. And of course, there's a lot more to Sigma than just these, but couldn't list them all out here. So take another second for you to vote. All right, let's close this poll and share the results. Yep, looks like everyone really loved the spreadsheet UI, which is not a surprise. I also love that. Amazing. All right, Kristian, let's pass it back to you to talk a little bit about how to get started.
Yeah. So how do we get started using Sigma? And we walked through it in the demo, but just to recall, the steps are pretty simple. We're going to start with your data sets. We need to get your Chartio data represented in Sigma. So if you have data stores, you can easily convert those to Sigma SQL data sets. You just plug and play. If you have your charts and visualizations coming directly from the Cloud Data Warehouse, then what we'll actually want to do there is, since the Sigma's chart creator is also our worksheet interface, we'll have to go to that step. You'll create a worksheet off of a data set or from a direct raw data warehouse table, and you'll recreate those visualizations. Now, as you saw during the demo, it's very simple to put visualizations in Sigma together. We don't have any complicated pipelines or anything like that. All you're doing is creating new custom calculations in the spreadsheet UI. As we saw, you're plotting those. And then inevitably, last step, you put those on a dashboard, right? You want to recreate those production dashboards you have in Chartio today. You want to get those scheduled out if you have any weekly or monthly recurring meetings that we need to address. We'll also want to make sure that if you have any embedding dashboards, those are also recreated. And then we can take that iframe, generate the embed code, and put it in place of the old Chartio embedded dashboard. Our deployments can be fairly seamless. We typically will meet with customers, new customers, and within a 2-week period, we'll often recreate their production instance or most of it. So this is something that we're definitely used to doing. I've had a number of customers come over from Chartio recently, and we're all just moving them through very quickly. We understand that there's a time limit here. We've got, what, 11.5 months now to get you off Chartio and onto a new solution. Let's do this in half a month, 1 month. Let's think days and weeks, not longer. So 3 easy steps, and happy to help you, guide you along the way.
Wonderful. All right, well, it is time for our live Q&A. I have seen some questions come in, so we'll start with those. But if you have a question that you have not asked, now is your time to take a second and post that in the questions box in the GoToWebinar panel. So let's see here. Kristian, first question. One of the benefits of Chartio is its reasonable pricing. How does Sigma compare?
Yeah, so Sigma is comparable to Chartio on pricing. Of course, it depends on exactly how many users you have and what your implementation looks like. But one of the really key benefits of Sigma's pricing is that our viewers are going to be included in the cost of the subscription. So Chartio has viewer fees, right? You have to pay for any number of users. And if you have hundreds, even thousands of folks in your company and you want them all to have access to data, that's going to be costly. However, with Sigma, we don't want to put a tax on curiosity or access to data, right? All your data exists within your data warehouse today. We just want to give folks the ability to look at that. Of course, we do have named users, namely those admins and those authors. So those folks will, right? That's a different story, but for viewers, it's all in.
Great. Here's another one. Can I write SQL in Sigma or reuse my existing SQL queries?
Absolutely. So as you saw, we can generate SQL on the fly, and in the same way, we can use SQL to just create these objects, because really that's all Sigma is doing, right? It's saying, okay, you wanted this table, you wanted this to be joined to some other tables. We'll make a query for that. You're happy to write your own queries. We have a SQL runner. You can bring in a SQL query for a worksheet or a data set.
Okay. Is Sigma's ad hoc analytics functionality compatible with other charting and visualization tools, i.e. Tableau?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the one thing about Tableau would be, right, they're sort of the Photoshop of analytics. They have beautiful visualizations. They have all these bells and whistles. But it's really difficult to, one, get over the initial technical skill floor for using Tableau, and then two, reaching your maximum potential using Tableau. It's a very high skill ceiling, and very few folks are going to get there. Now, with Sigma, we're much more approachable to that average business user. Maybe they're good at Excel or Sheets. They don't have much experience with analytics tools, and that's a lot of the same user base that Chartio might have, right? Chartio, when I was working there, we would talk to a lot of folks, knowledge workers, marketing, sales, finance, RevOps. These folks aren't going to be served as well with a Tableau as they would with a Sigma.
Interesting. Let's see here. What if my data isn't in one of the cloud data warehouses you mentioned? What are my options?
Yeah. So if you're currently not on Snowflake, BigQuery, Redshift, or Postgres, you're going to need to get your data into there, and it's fairly simple depending on where you're coming from. Right, you can stage things in S3, for example, You can upload CSVs directly to Snowflake, for example. You can even do so through the Sigma UI, as we showed. So there's some options. We definitely want to discuss your specific architecture with you, and we're happy to provide some consultative solutions.
All right. What user permissions are needed for a user to be able to schedule a report?
Yeah, you have to be an author at a minimum, and you have to have access to the dashboard or worksheet that you're trying to schedule a report for. We're now working on a project here internally. It's more granular permissions. So we're going to be looking to make that reporting likely to be a feature that we can also feature flag for folks.
Okay, here's a question on a similar topic. This person is wondering about scheduled dashboards and reports. Are there any features similar to Chartio alerts?
Yeah, so my main gripe with Chartio alerts was that you could only use alerts based off of a single value visualization, at least when I was there. I'm not sure if they advanced that capability in the recent year. But our scheduled reports is exactly that. However, we can take any value from any column on any visualization, and we can run a scheduled report off that. So it's much more robust than Chartio alerts.
Got it. Okay. Let's see here. Does Sigma offer the ability to embed charts and dashboards in other applications?
Absolutely. So whether it's your own application or it's a third-party application like Salesforce, Confluence, we can embed in any of those.
Great. Let me see here. To connect Salesforce, do we need to use any connector like Panoply or Stitch?
Yes, to connect Salesforce, you would use Panoply or Stitch or Fivetran, Matillion to bring that into your warehouse. Yes, we don't have a direct Salesforce connector. And part of the reason being, Salesforce has very strict limits on how much data you can pull with their API. And that's part of why all of your upstream data sources should be in your warehouse, because a lot of systems do have data limits such as Salesforce, and it's just much easier when everything already exists in Snowflake and you can query it live, or write BigQuery, Redshift, Postgres, whichever you want.
Okay. Similar to Chartio, can you define the foreign key relationships between your tables so that joins are performed automatically?
Yeah, not only can you define foreign key relationships, however, Sigma will automatically take those in from the warehouse. So we'll take foreign key relationships, descriptions, field types, obviously, and we didn't show it today, but you can have all those tables automatically linked together easily, yes.
Great. Let's see here. There's a couple more. With Chartio, we had a direct read-only connection to our SQL database. I know that isn't ideal, and we are considering going to the cloud-based data warehouse, but can you support a direct read-only connection to MS SQL?
Currently, we don't have a connection to Microsoft SQL Server. It would need to be in a cloud data warehouse this time. And again, we're happy to discuss this with you. We have our recommendations and point of view. I'm happy to take a look at your data stack and architecture.
All right. Let's see, we have a few more coming in here. Let's see here. Sorry, just kind of sorting through here. Is there a Google Analytics connection?
Yeah, not at the moment. So, yep, that's something that Chartio had that our customers liked. We don't have a direct Google Analytics connection at this time. It's easy enough to get that into a warehouse, though.
Definitely, yeah. Okay, and it looks like the last question here is, how long does it take to migrate from Chartio to Sigma? And are there any third parties you recommend to help with the transition process?
Yeah, so as far as migration, again, my customers, we've typically been running these with about 2 weeks. We've been trying to stand up their instances as close to their production instance that we can get. And then, all right, it's an iterative process, but you're talking days and weeks, not months, and certainly not the rest of this year. As far as resources, we are here as resources, and we're certainly happy to help and consult. But we do also have third parties that we can reach out to if you need a bit of a helping hand, right? If you need help with migrating over to a cloud data warehouse, you need help with your ETL process, that's something that we're happy to advise on. But if you want someone to do hands-on work, we can show you to the right folks.
Wonderful. Okay, well, I think those are all the questions that we have time for. But definitely, if you're still on the line, please take a second to download that handout that is in the GoToWebinar panel. It just gives a little bit more of an overview of Sigma versus Chartio. Keep an eye on your inbox. We will be sending out the recording of today's session so you can share it with colleagues or watch it back at your convenience. And with that, thank you, Kristian. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.